I think a lot of things happen to us, or especially in this country, because we allow it. We say, I was telling Frank on the way here, we say, oh, that doesn't concern me. That's never going to affect me.
Yeah.
And then eventually it does. And like I told him, when it's at your doorstep, then you're like, why is this happening to me? Well, why were you not concerned when it was happening to someone else?
Yeah.
That's easy. It's easy to turn the other way. I tell my kids this constantly. It's like there's 3 things you could do. You could do the right thing, you could do the wrong thing, or you could do nothing. But all 3 of those have consequences.
True.
You know what I mean? Looking the other way and not worrying about a situation that people should be worrying about. We'll come back. It's only a matter of time. This is true. I've experienced this in my 47 years of life. Things that I didn't think were going to concern me, and guess what? They did. Came back and bit me. So people should never think that way. I have relatives that are like, well, I sent you that thing today about how Texas gave up.
That's that rectangle?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just because that section wanted to own other human beings, and people are like, what do we care? It's the past. It didn't affect us. It's like, because this is what happens when you allow people to get away with this. When you don't say, hey, this is wrong. What you're doing, owning another human being, this is wrong.
Yeah, it's fucking...
Do you know what I mean? And it wasn't just the owning. I mean, if you look into it and you do your research, these people were basically terrorized. For years and decades and decades, and it wasn't even until, what is it? Maybe, less than 100 years ago. Right? And even now, some could say that these people are still terrorized, but look at segregation, especially in the South, 50s and 60s. And people didn't think that would affect them. And it was like, guess what? It did. It took people to say enough. President Kennedy. It took, Martin Luther King for people to say, this is enough. We're not going to tolerate this. This is, it only happens because we allow it to happen. Everything that happens in those countries, it happens because we allow it to happen. The tax breaks for the rich. Income inequality. Nobody says, hey, it's enough of this. Yeah. Hopefully we all learn from our past, because our past has everything to do with where we're going.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely would not, and even currently, for some reason, if we, next day there's aliens and we have to be slaves for them and, mine resources, I would rather die trying to fight for my freedom than, doing something for somebody else for free. And I hate that. Not just,
and that wasn't just it, right? It wasn't just the manual labor. The manual labor without, you know what I mean, representation or whatever, without being properly, paid for your work. Taxation without representation, you know what I mean?
They're getting mistreated.
But the whole mistreat, I mean, if you were a slave and I was a slave owner, I could come into your house and take your wife right now.
Yeah.
So my friends and I could have fun with your wife, and then in the morning it's like, here you go, here's your wife back. How awful was that? Or your children, I have 4. And they were taken away sometimes at the age of 5, and they would never see their kids again. We don't think there's anything wrong with this. We have a very dark history. And people are like, I wasn't a slave owner, it doesn't pertain to me. And okay, I understand what you're saying. At the same time, even I have profited from what happened in the past. Dude, this country was built on slave labor. Period. We can't deny that. It happened. And if you're here, my parents, they came here illegally in the 70s, even though, I know people who will tell me, we didn't cross the border. The border crossed us. I work with people, and this guy's family had been here in California for 300 years. You know what I mean? It's like, we didn't come from anywhere. We came from right here. But at the same time, it's like they grasp that whole being American. They don't throw the bathwater out with the baby. It's like, You know what I mean? They've always paid their taxes, even when they were here illegally, which is a big misconception that illegal aliens don't pay taxes. I'm sorry. One way or another, they pay their fair share. They actually contribute. And this was back in 2009, 2013, I did the research, so it might even be worse now, but they actually contribute $18 billion to our economy. Not just in taxes. You got to figure if you're here illegally and you're buying whatever it is that you're buying, groceries, goods at Walmart or whatever, you're paying taxes on that. You're not on welfare. You're not getting assistance aid. You're here illegally. You don't want to burn that. You know what I mean? You don't want to burn the chances of being deported. You don't want to be deported. You don't want to burn your chances of being here and staying here. So I like, again, you could look that up if you want. I think it was 18 billion. I wasn't sure, but they contribute a fair share to the economy. I don't know. Someone showed me a picture once, and it was like this guy. He looked like he was here illegally. He was Hispanic, but he was selling oranges. Next to him was a guy begging for change, and it's like, who do you think was who? Mm-hmm. So most of my family came here illegally. Uncles, aunts, even a few cousins. And they've all became members of society. I have one cousin that's a head honcho for Trader Joe up in Napa, Trader Joe's. All of them have become excellent members of society. They during the Reagan administration, I think, is when they became citizens. He had a whole thing where, aside from the other stuff he did, meaning, I don't know if you remember hearing about that whole drugs for guns, the Contra affair. Do you guys remember that? Well, his wife, Nancy Reagan, was like, just say no to drugs. At the same time, if you ever saw... Did you ever see the movie American Made? With Tom Cruise when he was smuggling drugs for the CIA?
I don't think so.
Okay, well,
I've heard of
check that out. It happened, the guy got killed over everything. And it was like, you were more than happy to introduce cocaine and even freebase to poor black neighborhoods. You didn't do it in Beverly Hills. You didn't do it in Thousand Oaks. But you did it in Compton. You did it, you did it in East LA. You did it in, Atlanta. So it's like, I really think that was a way to keep those people down and keep those people there, because if you become owned by anything, if you have a hard time rising. You have a hard time. You don't want to go get a job, not to mention, everything else that comes with it. I don't understand how we can't grasp the idea of blacks. I think are the minority in the United States. They're the smallest population, one of the smaller populations, but there's more blacks locked up in prisons all over our country. And statistics have shown that every race commits just as many. They're capable of committing just as many crimes. Usually, people that were born here legally are more subject to committing crimes than people that were not from here and that are here illegally. When you're illegally, you're following every signal. You don't want to get pulled over. You don't want to. Yeah. You don't want to risk being deported. So it's one of those things where people don't. I've had people be so mad at me and say, "Don't you say that they pay their fair share? That's BS." I'm like, are you? They're like, "How do you know?" I'm like, well, my parents were one once. We're here illegally once. My relatives were here. That's how I know. I know firsthand. I don't watch the media. I don't watch the news. I've never even had a Facebook in my life. I really haven't. And I refuse to have one. It would probably consume me, like I told you. I'd probably be on there fighting with someone, tooth and nail, every day. Yeah. And I'm like, I got kids to raise. I got a life to enjoy. I already contribute a lot to my job as it is, more than I even want to.
Can we talk about that? Like what?
My job, yes.
What is your job? Juan?
My job, I'm a field operator. So I do a lot of the. It's like a instrument operator. I test a lot of the instruments. Like one of the major ones is the blowout preventers on all these wells. It's a valve 100 feet below the ocean floor. That we test. This valve can detect too much pressure or not enough pressure. Not enough pressure means there's a break somewhere in the well up the line, which if there is, that would be polluting the ocean, of course. Yeah. So what it'll do if it detects too little of pressure, it'll shut itself in before it to minimize anything disastrous.
Nice.
Well, whether it's a gas pocket that we may hit while we're drilling, or what they call a blowout, like what happened on the Deepwater Horizon. I don't know if you know about that. And it's happened around the world, really. Piper Alpha was another one where, a lot of guys
Oil spills
died. It wasn't. It's so much more than just an oil spill. It's like, it's a very hazardous situation when that Deepwater Horizon went up. I mean, there was guys on there that were never found again. Nine people died on it. Piper Alpha. I think it was like 80 guys perished in that one, or at least half of. There was almost 200 people, and I believe almost half of them died on the platform. Same thing. Some guys were never found again, and so I test all the fail safes, everything that's there for an emergency to shut us in. Like right now, even pipelines from land, gas pipelines, oil pipelines going out. They're called ESDs, emergency shutdowns. And so in order to kill everything right now, if you have a major fire, major explosion, we are designed to shut everything shuts in by itself without us touching anything. And if that doesn't happen, we have other parameters we use, like emergency shutdowns, even on the helicopter. If you're like the last guy on board and things are going really bad and you're on a helicopter, there's an ESD button up there to shut the whole place down while you're, as soon as you leave. And so that's part of my job. I do that every week that I'm out there on top of, other instruments, that the level and pressure safeties on the tanks and vessels, because we do a little bit of what they call oil separation, refining. We don't refine it to the point where we absolutely have a fuel, though I actually have seen that. It's called condensate. When we evaporate some oil, whatever evaporates, we call it vapor recovery, and we will take that gas, and it's really bad with impurities like benzene. Hydrogen sulfide is a major one, and that stuff will kill you. At certain parts per million, at certain percentages, you lose your sense of smell. So you could be like sitting there in this hydrogen sulfide and not even know you're in it. You lose your sense of smell. At low forms, it smells like rotten eggs, which we've all smelled sulfur. Yeah. You go to Avila, Mineral Springs, or Paso Robles, and so you'll in low forms it smells like rotten eggs, and in high concentrations you don't smell it at all. So you're kind of just slowly dying and not knowing it. Not slowly. I hear you actually go pretty fast. I've been in it all under an air tank, with a tank strapped up, and we've had leaks that we had to manually repair under air because the concentration was high and that kind of thing. We simulate rescues every week, and what we call an emergency. We have an emergency response team, and we practice every week. No one knows when the drill. That's part of the drill is. You don't know when it's going to happen, and that keeps you kind of sharp. It's like the nearest air tank, the nearest fire extinguisher if it is a fire, whatever it is. Sometimes we call it a platform abandonment when we all load up on the emergency escape capsule, which is meant to, if there's nothing else we can do, again, Deepwater Horizon, there was nothing they could do. They just had to let it go up in flames. And a gas pocket could burn. If you hit a big enough gas pocket, it could go for weeks and weeks and weeks. Lost Hills in the late 90s. I was already working offshore in 98. It wasn't Lost Hills. It was, what's the oil town near Lost Hills? What is that called? Coalinga. They hit a gas pocket. The driller and his crew, and what we call the mudman, which actually regulates these gas pockets, we could control it with heavy muds. Once we could control it, We put the valves on. We put all the fail safes on there, and now we can control the well. Usually, they didn't have time to control the well. Their gas pocket was so big, it blew everything out of the hole, the pipes, everything. And of course, that caused a spark and a fire. Those guys had enough time to hop in the back of the truck and haul butt out of there. And that was going for, I think, 3 weeks. You could look it up. But they said you would be driving on like 41 and see orange sky, over to the north. And that's what it was a gas pocket that they had hit, that they kind of had to let it burn itself out.
So, like, the setting you're working in, it sounds like you guys are drilling into the grounds and, like, potentially hitting gas pockets that could explode and cause giant fires.
More than likely not. They've had it down to a science, to the point, it's such a science that most of the time, and I'm going to say 99.9% of the time, the gas pockets are controlled. You do seismic testing. It's a science now. And that it's always a possibility, but not likely with what we know nowadays. What we know nowadays, it's like, we can control it. We know how big a gas pocket is, how much pressure is down there. And we'll use heavy muds to control it and kind of diet down, keep it at bay till we get all our equipment on. There's a company called Boots and Coots, and they're oil field firefighters. You're too young if you were born at the time. This was the early 90s when the first time they invaded Iraq, and Saddam Hussein lit all his oil wells on fire and stuff, some platforms, some oil fields on land. He lit them on fire to the point, basically he was mad at the United States, like the only reason you're taking interest here is because of our oil. And he lit them on fire, and who do you call? These Texans to come and control the situation. It was same thing, gas pockets. You have no way of killing this fire because it's constantly being fed by gas on its own, natural gas. And what they did was they would take a big boom, 100-stick of boom with a tank of nitrogen. Well, what nitrogen does is displaces the air in the fire triangle. So if you have no oxygen, you have no fire. And what happened is that this nitrogen tank would explode, and it would kill the fire. But everyone's standing by with their equipment, with heavy duty valves on the edge of on the end of another boom or a crane, and ready to like swing over and take the old stuff off that's been burnt and has exploded and everything, and put all your new stuff on to control it before it ignites again. That's a very dangerous job. You could look it up. It's the company's name is Boots and Coots, and they that's what they specialize in, from what I understand. And don't quote me. This is just what I heard, from even bosses. It was like $1 million just to get that guy on the phone.
Are you serious?
Yeah. It's a big job. Not everyone's prepared to do it. Not everyone's willing to do it. It's like
some chemistry is involved.
Very little chemistry. More, it's of course, yes, it is a science. I think a lot of it's logic. You got to figure a fire. What's it going to take? You need to take combustion away. You need to take oxygen away. You need to take one part of the fire triangle out in order to kill the loop. There's no spark. I mean, even when we have had to make repairs under air, because again, hydrogen sulfide is very unstable, very combustible, even our tools are brass to minimize spark because of how. And at the same time, a lot of gas and little oxygen will keep something like that from happening too. You need the proper mix of oxygen, spark, gas, or fuel. And any fire has a fuel. Wildland fires, their fuel is, the dry grass, the trees, that's that fuel. And the same thing, you have to take some part out of that fire triangle out as well. So
So, are you guys working at like when you go into work, when you're working, are you going to like a facility, or are you going out into like some sort of like setting somewhere? Are you guys working on like boats on like the lands and the mountains, or like a big factory?
It's definitely, I call it a facility. Ours has a living quarters. We live out there 2 weeks at a time.
You'll live out there?
Yes.
Damn.
I'll live out there for 2 weeks. Like I said, been doing it since '98, so we're going on 22 years and 23 years. And you get used to it after a while, I guess. I'm kind of over it. I much rather stay at home. Frank was actually just giving me hell about not wanting to leave the lake ever. He's like, you never leave that area. You need to get out and about some more. So it's like I'm gone half the time already. I'd rather, I enjoy, me. I enjoy my place, and I enjoy, the people around me, and my kids, and I enjoy life up there. So
your commute must take a while, right?
No, not really. Frank has driven me many times. What would you say it takes me to get out there? Hour and a half for you to drive me?
It's an hour from Paso.
From Paso to Santa Maria Airport, I take a helicopter from Santa Maria, and we're in the air for about an hour because we have to head way out into the Pacific Ocean and then hang a left. Before 9/11, we used to be able to go over the top of Vandenberg Air Force Base. They didn't mind. We would fly over the top of them. After 9/11, it's like no one is allowed near us. They had to take extra precautions, I guess, because we, aside from Pearl Harbor, we hadn't seen anything like what had happened that day. And same thing. Back then, when 9/11 happened, everyone was stuck on the platform a couple of extra days because they wouldn't if you remember, they didn't let anyone fly. Right after that. So there was guys dying to get home already, and it's like, Bin Laden ruined it for everyone. Thanks a lot, Bin Laden. I don't know. That's just,
So you don't have to do like a daily drive every day.
No.
You just go for 2 weeks, come back.
Yeah.
Go, come back.
That's the good thing about it. We have guys that live all the way in Oregon. We've had guys that live in Arizona, and the reason they're able to do this job is because your commute is only twice a month.
That's kind of dope.
Yeah, I think it is. That's one part that's dope about it is you could live. I've lived in Big Bear while working this job. I used to drive from Big Bear to Santa Maria.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, twice a month. And sometimes it was, to me back then, it was therapeutic.
Driving.
Yeah. Well, I'd go out, mostly in the desert where it was, I would go a long time without seeing civilization or other vehicles in some parts, and I would just jam out, man. I would turn the music up loud, and I was happy when I got home, of course, and family was happy to see me, and same thing on the way to work, just jamming out. Home out in the desert. No one's gonna care. No one sees you, so yeah. It's when if you want to live anywhere in California. We've actually had guys that lived in Louisiana and fly every 2 weeks. So I would say that's the one good part about it is you could live anywhere in California for sure. Remember one time I was taking a shortcut home that a friend was showing me, and he's like, I think we're gonna hit traffic because of the holidays. It was around Thanksgiving back in, 2003, 2004, and I'm like, it's okay. I got 2 weeks to get. I don't gotta be anywhere other than at work in 2 weeks. So I got 2 weeks to get back to work anyway. Don't worry about it. We get there when we get there. So yeah.
Is it like 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off?
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
So
I've done the opposite too, where it was like 3 weeks on, 1 week off. When the economy took a dive in 2008 and they let go of a lot of people,
yeah,
I thought they were going to let me go. And turned out they let go of all these other people, and so I had to fill in for them. They let all these people go that I had to. So now between a few of us, we were taking on their 2 weeks that they were supposed to have out there. I did that for almost a year. 3 weeks on, 1 week off. There was never enough time for anything. The year went by fast.
Yeah.
Because I missed out on so much. But yeah, hopefully we never have to do that again. I don't know if I could. I'm too spoiled now. You know, there's times, you know, Frank will take the kids in to school for me, and you know, there's times I get to sleep in. I get to, you know, chillax in a hammock if I want to in the middle of the day. Not that I day drink very often. That's very seldom, but yeah, it's, you know what, you paid your dues, meaning, you know, and I've been out there in miserable situations. When I first started, it was what they call roughnecking, and that's when you're drilling for oil. And we would be like outdoors handling heavy steel, like awful. Like these guys are all missing fingers and limbs. Oh yeah.
Jeez.
Equipment. It's a very dangerous job, especially when you're drilling for oil and roughnecking. I remember it was raining around in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. And it's raining sideways with like 50-mile-per-hour winds. You know, you can barely keep you got your hard hat strapped on because you got to wear that too, right? And you're cold and you're miserable at 3 a.m. and I wanted to go home. I had kids though. I had a daughter on the way. To me, it wasn't an option. It's like, it's not her fault. I didn't pay attention at school, you know. So I just bared down, man, and I did what I was supposed to do. I think I did that for about 2 years, and I wanted to move on to something else. I'm like, get me out of this. I don't like this. You know, those guys who are a different breed, they're called roughnecks, and those guys are a lot of them missing teeth. A lot of them. And probably half of them aren't even alive today.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
From the job you're working?
Not specifically. Yeah, a lot of times it was the, what do they call it? They call it, what's it called? It was masculine, what do they call that? Where it's not a sickness. Man, what do they call it?
It's not a sickness.
No, but you know, being what you think is a man, masculine toxicity.
Oh, yeah.
Do you understand what that means?
Explained what that was on this podcast. Yeah,
oh, okay.
A while ago.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Masculine toxicity means you feel and you think you have to be such a man that you actually don't take care of yourself. You don't eat right. You think you always, you know what I mean? We constantly, I don't know if it's primitive. I'm not sure. You know,
you're like proving. You have to prove something.
Yes.
You're like not like wiping anymore and stuff.
These guys. Yeah, these guys would like. So there would be this lead-based grease that you would put on the pipes, and the pipes, I'm telling you, are like this. They call it heavy wall. A joint of pipe weighs as much as a car. Yeah. Fuck. And that stuff could fall on guys, man. Some of that stuff has smashed guys to death, you know. And,
yeah.
Like I said, very dangerous job. And they would take this lead-based grease, you know, and they call it dope, and that's what you put on the threads of this big old column of pipe that's going up, and you stab it, and that in case you ever have to bring it up and undo it, which you'll have to do to every well someday if it ever dies, and most of them do eventually someday. But they wouldn't use gloves. They wouldn't use eye protection. They wouldn't use ear protection. Some of those guys are wearing all that stuff at the end of the day and not caring. And it's like, wow, I wonder why your kidneys gave out so soon. Oh, I wonder why you have skin cancer. Oh, I wonder why it's like, oh no, I would wear rubber gloves for everything. And they'd be like, look how pretty your hands are. I'm like, I don't care. I'm not the guy that's going to die of liver cancer because my skin consumed that.
Yeah.
You know, or liver failure. You know what I mean?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's honestly crazy.
I was telling, am I allowed to say B-Rad's name on here?
Yeah.
Okay, so the day after you left, we went shooting.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and he didn't want to wear any earplugs, and I'm like...
Are you serious?
Yeah,
Dude,
he's like,
horrible.
fine. and they're
horrible.
sitting a little ways back. So it could have been me that was a little bit overly cautious. I am always cautious with those things. My eyes, my ears, and it was one of those things where before my daughter, I didn't really care. I was all about that toxic masculinity and yeah, look at me, I could climb up 200 feet without a harness and so forth and so on. And I'm not wearing eye protection. I'm not wearing hearing protection. And then when my daughter was born, it's like, hey, I want to see those first steps. I want to see her cry. I want to hear those first words. I want to, And my son came along, and then my other daughter, and then my son, and it's like when these guys would be like, oh, those pretty little hands, and you're always wearing ear protection. You can't, you can't hear me. And it's like, speak louder. I do. Secondly, I'm not going to risk anything for you. You don't mean anything. My daughter means everything to me. My kids mean everything to me. I'm not going to risk that.
Yeah.
Because you think it's not macho. How ignorant, how dumb are we? Right? Especially when you have a lot of men out in the middle of the ocean and no women, it's like we regress back into primitive us, into primitive man, And we really do. It's like, yeah, some of those guys wouldn't even shower. It's like no chicks to impress anyway. So it was like that.
What are you guys eating on the boat?
Oh man, we eat
Who's
great.
cooking?
We have great chefs. Some people call them cooks. Some people call them chefs. I've never had a bad cook. Guys do tend to complain, but that's I think that's human beings. They get too complacent or too spoiled sometimes. We're very privileged at times, but I really cannot remember having a bad meal out there. Is pretty amazing. And we can have anything from steak and lobster night.
Are you serious?
Oh yeah, and it's not just one steak, one filet mignon. It's like until you get full, and it's like don't make yourself sick though. But yeah, steak, lobster, you name it, they got it. They will.
Who's
prepare
paying for it?
The company.
Okay.
The company's paying. They subcontract the cooks or the chefs and their crew. Their crew also makes our beds. They do our laundry. They take good care of us. I guess I figure if they're taking care of us, we could concentrate on the job more, and it's one less thing to think about.
Yeah.
So yeah, we actually get kind of spoiled out. We have our own theater room. We have
theater room.
Yeah, we have a whole theater room. Yeah.
No fucking.
Oh yeah. It's ceiling to floor to walls, carpet for sound.
Really?
Yeah.
To keep the sound in or out?
To keep the sound, so the sound sounds like a movie theater. So it sounds, the awesome, and of course we have the surround sound. I can't remember how big it was, and we have theater seating. And our theater seating isn't like the regular theater. It's like all leather recliners. Our cup holders are all lit up, and of course we've had those for almost 20 years. It was like 20 years ago we were already experiencing this. So
how often are you watching movies?
I don't do it anymore. There was back in the day when for a while my really good friends and I all worked together. It was great. We were very tight knit. They all went other ways. One of them's running his own platform now. Yeah. Another guy, is in Mesa, Arizona. I think he worked for John Deere maybe or Caterpillar. I'm not sure if he was a machinist or what, but yeah. So there was times, it would be like movie theater night. It would be like the latest and greatest movie that just came out. We would watch it.
So wait, why don't you why don't you watch movies anymore?
I just I kind of just keep to myself, especially. You don't
talk to anybody?
No,
Really?
Unfortunately,
I couldn't see that.
Right? You wouldn't think, but we do not meet when it comes to a lot of opinions.
Oh.
Yes.
So that politics get brought up on the job.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Constantly, and it's not usually by me. I mean, I'm more than happy to talk politics.
Yeah.
But not usually by me, but there's times when it's like you just hear something so ignorant. You know, it's like it makes you want to twitch.
People talking about like Black Lives Matter.
Yeah. You know what really gets me is when they talk about immigrants. Because here you are, you're taking on these people that can't even they can't even talk back and protect themselves. Mm-hmm. At times I felt like it was purposely. They were purposely targeted. If you remember back, you know, after 9/11 and then we fought 2 wars, correct? We fought in Afghanistan, or not we, but our troops fought in Afghanistan and Iraq. Okay, so we had 2 wars going on. How much do you think each one of those wars cost us?
Like trillions of dollars.
Okay. At the same time, instead of reporting on that, Fox News reporting on that, and I'm sorry to target Fox News, but technically it's not even considered news, it's considered entertainment because of all the inaccuracies, which I can't believe anyone that doesn't. There's people that's religiously what they watch, and that's what they take into consideration. For some reason, they can't take anything else into consideration. That there's something more out there that, you know, we're actually supposed to be kinder to each other. We're supposed to be more humane towards each other. We're supposed to be, you know, I'm agnostic. I don't have faith. But, you know, at one time I was, you know, fairly spiritual. And it was like, you know, if you do believe in God, like all of these people do, not myself, but if you do, it's like if you read the Bible, it says, you know, not just be kind to one another, not just do not judge one another, be kind to the traveler, help the traveler, help the person, you know what I mean? And it's like, no, none of that mattered. It was like we lock up kids in cages. We go, and sure, they're like, well, the Obama administration started. They didn't separate families like they did here. It was like they were trying to detour people from coming here. I heard Mike Pence say, who's a very spiritual man, according to him, if you come to this country, we're not only will you have your children taken away, you will be arrested. And it's like, coming here is a misdemeanor. So does everyone with a misdemeanor have their kids taken away? That's like an unpaid speeding ticket. Do you understand what I mean? Don't use that as a deterrent, and don't say, you know, you believe in God, because that's very contradicting. Why would you? Some of those kids died there and never saw their parents again. Yeah. Some parents never saw their children again because of what we did, because of the policies we had at that time. So we blame these people for affecting our economy. For you know what I mean? For a lot of years, I knew people at my work that would say, you know, that they were taking advantage of the system, that they were, and it's like, I should have said something then. I just didn't know how. I didn't have the words. I did let them know. Okay, at the same time, why don't you talk about the 2 wars we just fought, and how come we're not blaming the economy on that? Who gets rich during war? It's not guys like me. It's not guys like my family. Guys like us, guys like my family who are middle class at best, end up either paying for war through taxes or sometimes with their lives. You know, the rich don't go and die in war. You got Donald Trump, who's a 3-time draft dodger. You know, try to say, hey, I don't like veterans that get captured. I like veterans that don't get captured. It's like, who are you to say anything? You know what I mean? It was you dodged Vietnam twice, the Korean War once. It was like, what gives you the right to say anything? You've never even been there. You've never. And same thing, Mexico's not sending their best rapists and murderers, and it's like, are you kidding me? How many lawsuits do you have pending right now over that kind of thing itself? You know what I mean? If you want to talk about mass murdering and raping in this country, talk to the Native Americans the Europeans came across. And I'm talking about myself as well. Spanish. I have Spanish bloodline from Spain, France. So it's like, when there was mass rape and murder here and pillaging, talk to the Native Americans about that. They are the only ones I know that experience that in mass quantities like that. The Trail of Many Tears. Do you know how many people died in that? Men, women, and children, which I can't even imagine. I can't even fathom. That would be awful. And so, yeah, we sit here and say, oh, you know, God. I remember people saying God wanted Donald Trump to win. He won because God wanted. I'm like, are you kidding me? I guess we could just convince ourselves to believe anything that is out there, and that's also as scary. Because to me, there's a blatant right and there's a blatant wrong, and we all know it. So, on that, what do you think of this job offshore in the oil industry? Have you ever seen the platforms?
No.
Okay.
No.
If you ever head south of Santa Maria, actually,
Okay.
you could see them. They're lit up out in the middle of the ocean, and
Okay.
yeah.
So
yeah.
that's where you're working.
That's where I work. Okay. If you ever head towards LA and you see that,
You're on one.
I'm one of those. Yeah, more than likely.
So you haven't made
Juan is on one of those.
one of them.
And I've worked them all the way from here down to Long Beach.
So you guys have amazing chefs. You're getting breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Mm-hmm.
You get a hour lunch break, or how's that work?
Oh yeah. Our lunch break too. For the most part, we're on standby. I'm to the point in time in my job now where I'm on standby quite a bit. We have to meet certain standards, meaning certain things have to be tested by the end of every month or by the middle of every month, whatever rotation it is. Any failed safes on the platform, most of them cannot go over 30 days. Hell, the emergency fire equipment, I test that every 7. Like, we have an emergency diesel water pump, which will kick off in an emergency, and that's not tied to anything else, meaning nothing electrical, nothing. Do you understand? If we lose power on the whole entire platform, that pump, and we have a fire, that pump will automatically kick itself on too, no matter what. Everything out there, all the valves, a lot of the fail-safes, they run on transmitters and air. They're air-actuated valve, meaning valves. I could actually control them from the control room, push a button or push a couple of keys and close a valve or open another one or control level in tanks and vessels and it's all actuated by air. So we even have an emergency air compressor. We have a breathing air compressor, which is it runs. It's ready to go, like right now, and a backup for that. We should have a backup for a backup, but everything has to be explosion proof. Everything, in case there's a gas leak or whatever, there's no spark added to that. So
what happens when you get off work? Like you work 8 hours and then you have some time to kill before bed. You don't want to hang out with anybody on the boat or the platform with you. You don't want to watch movies with them. What do you do in your spare time?
What do I do? It doesn't look like it now, but usually, working. I usually work nights. Sometimes I think they did it on purpose so that I wouldn't be so disruptive. But usually, I'll get off work. Maybe try to hit the gym. If not, get some shut eye and then.
They have a gym on the platform.
Yes, we have an excellent gym on the platform, and it's right across the hall from my dormitory.
And it's full living quarters.
Yeah.
Damn.
I mean, it's like a dormitory that's 3 levels, and then the very top of that is a helicopter deck. So we land on that.
You guys have a pool?
No, we do have a jacuzzi.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Some of those guys maybe are getting too friendly in there right now. I don't know.
Okay.
Every day.
There you go. But no, man, for the most part these days, I kind of try to keep to myself. All my friends went their own separate ways, and we're still friends. But we have people now with different opinions. Not trying to bash people from the South or whatever, but we have contractors coming in to do demolishment work, demoing, what we call demoing, on the platform. Texas, Louisiana, those parts of the South. And just the mentality is completely different.
Yeah.
I do, like I said, I do not appreciate people speaking on issues that they really don't know anything about, or nor have they bothered to do the research on.
Yeah.
I would love if they did a little bit of research. I implore people to please do their research. And they, like I said, they say things that are inaccurate. Misinformation can be very dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
People have died over misinformation.
Yeah.
And that's very unfortunate. And so when people spread misinformation, I a lot of times I'm disgusted. And I really have. I think I've gotten to the point in time where I'm very short on it nowadays. I'll have patience with people that may not know any better.
Mm-hmm.
If I like you, I might explain to you, hey, that's really not how it is. You could say, well, how do you know? I'm not telling you what I saw on social media. I don't even have social media. I'm not telling you what I saw on the news. I'm telling you from my own personal experience. From, I being raised by parents that were here as immigrants, illegal immigrants at one time. I'm telling you what I've seen in my 47 years of life. I've been married twice. I've raised kids. I'm raising kids now. You know what I mean? I had to stick it out at times, even though I didn't want to, whether it be an awful job, whether it be, and so it's one of these things where if I tell you something, it's not because it's inaccurate, or if I'm trying to correct someone, it's not because I want you to be educated on what it is that you think that you're talking about. When like I said, when you say, oh, Mexico's not sending their best, rapists and murderers, and it's like, wait, I don't have any of those in the 100. I have well over 100 family members that live within, from LA to Napa. And not one of them, I think I'm the one that's been convicted of anything. DUI back in 2005. It's like, I'm the only one that's actually, I was born here in the United States. I feel I'm very privileged. When I got a DUI, I didn't have to worry about being deported. I didn't have to worry, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, you do your time and you get out and try to better yourself. These people are like, some could be deported even if it means death. If you're sick and you're here illegally, even if you're out of the hospital, it's like, if you deport this person, they will die. It's like, it's not our problem, sorry. You know what I mean? That's going to be their problem. That's happened before. Again, veterans. My brother-in-law's two nephews. One served in Afghanistan. One served in Iraq. They did a tour there. These guys killed people for this country. These guys were willing to lay their lives down for this country. They came back here and had PTSD. One developed a drinking problem. Another guy developed a drug problem. Instead of getting these guys the help they needed, you know what happened? They were deported. And that's the things they got, for being shot at. Yeah, for being shot at, for shooting people. That's hey, thanks a lot,
Yeah, that's dumb.
And we create enemies doing that too. How many people are going to look back and say, oh, those people over there, their policies, it's awful. It's, you know what I mean? And so some people are like, then don't come here. It's like, other people get mad. I'm like, maybe none of us should have came here. Why don't you ask, you ever meet another Native American? We almost wiped them all out. Ask them if they like us here sometimes.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I mean? It's like, I have a friend who, again, the guy that runs his own platform, he's half Tongva. And so, yeah, it's like, ask these people what had happened to them. When he tried saying he was Tongva, they're like, it's not possible. You guys were all annihilated, 150 years ago.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't like when people can't defend themselves, and some people take advantage of that. That's awful. You know what I mean? At least pick on someone that can defend themselves. At least earn it.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate. It's one of those things that I keep going back to, and it kind of consumes me. It consumes me at work. It could, sometimes it consumes me in everyday life, and I hope someday we'd all get past that. And again, it's like, yeah, it's one of those things where very unfortunate, and I hate seeing it, and I see it time and time again, and it's like, don't listen to me, please. Whoever's listening, do your own research. You don't have to believe me. Look and see who actually contributes and who actually does not. And even then, people need help sometimes. We shouldn't look down upon other people when they need help. But something like racism, like blatant racism, or if you're sexist or homophobic, it's like, these are things that should be frowned upon. Mm-hmm. They should not be encouraged. And the reason that these people continue to behave this way is because it's tolerated. Sometimes it is encouraged. Sometimes, and it should not be. It just should not be. All of us deserve to be here. And the second you start saying, this guy doesn't belong, it's like, maybe reflect on yourself. Maybe look at yourself and see if you actually should. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know if you've witnessed that. I love San Luis Obispo. The atmosphere but most places aren't like this.
That's very true. Yeah, mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
SLO's pretty. It feels pretty safe and clean for the most part. You know what I mean? But there's not trash everywhere.
Well, and not just that, but it's like, I remember when pre-COVID, when I came here and I saw the Black Lives Matter everywhere, and it was like, hey, in this store, it doesn't matter if you're gay, black, Hispanic, what, everyone is allowed here. Do you know what I mean? Most places that you go to are not like that.
Yeah.
It's what happened to us? It's 2021. Why are we regressing back? Mm-hmm. In my time, in Frank's time, the late 80s, the 90s, most people embraced black culture. You know what I mean? It was like I don't know when we took a step back. I don't know when that happened, and I don't know why that happened. We didn't need to. We didn't. Everyone deserves to be here. Really. True. Some people make mistakes. Who hasn't? Mm-hmm. I'm a very imperfect human being. I'll tell you that right now. Doesn't mean I won't try to be a person of integrity.
Yeah.
Or a righteous person. Most people don't know. I don't even like to tell people. I give to charities. Different charities all the time. I don't even like to tell people about that. Because I'm not here looking for to be glorified.
Yeah.
Like I said, very faulty human being. I have ADD. I'm dyslexic. I have all these other issues that sometimes I get a little bit ahead of myself when I talk, and I'm sure you've noticed. A lot of people have, and I just I try to get control of that my own way. At the same time, I'm here to just hopefully try to inform somebody, and try to maybe point them in the right direction.
Yeah. When
it comes to issues like this, because I'll tell you, San Luis Obispo is like this. You go to Santa Maria, complete opposite. One side is against the other. I've seen these people picketing down their main street of Broadway, and it's like, some people are all for the immigrants. There's other side that are like, no, get them out of here. These people need to be deported. These people need to be, and I'm sure there's the percentage of people that come over here and commit crimes, it's like 3%. When the last president we had was like, MS-13 is coming to your door, and they're going to take away your gun so you can't even protect yourselves. How much misinformation was that? Even when MS-13 was here, that was like 3% of illegal immigrants. Do you know what a small percentage that is?
What's MS-13?
The gang.
Oh, it's a
The
gang.
big, yes, the
okay.
Salvadorian gang, and I mean, some of those guys I think were actually born here. I'm not sure, but you didn't even, you live in an area where that wasn't even an issue, and you didn't even worry about it when this was said on live TV. It's like that didn't even affect you because you knew it was BS.
Yeah.
It wasn't going to happen. Fear mongering was off. When the last president won, crime was at an all-time low. It hadn't been that low in 15 years, but he's telling you people are coming over here to, rape and murder you, and it's like, are you crying? We need more cops, so forth and so on, and it's like that wasn't even an issue with what you're using. You fund police departments with. We have a problem out there with homeless people. From what I understand, it's a mental issue a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And so why don't we combat that? I mean, you got to figure how much funding you get a fine, or there's a drug bust. The RICO Act means you confiscate all that. The money, the cars. What happens to all of that money? Where did that go?
Into somebody's pocket.
Yeah, well, I want to know whose pocket.
Yeah.
When they were talking about defunding the police, I don't know if that was a proper word for it, but I will tell you this: I've worked hard to have a little bit of something when I retire. The 401ks, IRAs that I invested in. These guys, our money is paying for their retirement.
Yeah.
Right? And for their benefits. And they should get that, but if you're going to get that, try to act accordingly too. Not so unprofessional, not so, you know what I mean? There's video of like police departments in the South, and they have an APC, that's an armored personnel carrier, and on the video they're playing like Metallica and it has a skull on it. You know what I mean? That's not the professionalism I'm expecting here. That's not, like I said, we can make many examples of how this happens, and it's like, hopefully people will see someday. It's like, you could do better. You could do better. If all of our money in this town, if you work and you pay taxes, some of your money goes to that. If all of us are paying for that, I expect a little more professionalism. I expect you to try harder. Do you know why? Because I'm holding you to a higher standard than most people. The whole Black Lives thing happened. And I remember some people that were against Black Lives Matter were like, well, how come no one talks about the black on black violence? Chicago, I told you about Chicago. They call it Chirac. So many people, and they took away funding for kids in poor black neighborhoods. They took away after school funding. What happens when you do that? When you give a young person too much time, what do you think is going to happen? Nothing good. You're young and you're dumb, and you're gonna act up. And a lot of times, unfortunately, there's times when they'll convict a 14-year-old as an adult. What kind of dumb things did you do when you were 14?
A lot of dumb
things. Right? And it's like, sometimes that's the only difference, is that they got caught and you didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, he who throws the first stone. That kind of thing. And yeah, I love San Luis Obispo for that reason. Is everyone is welcomed here. Everyone, you know what I mean? And you go to where I'm at in different places, and it's not like that at all. You're the minority.
Yeah.
You will be. And it's very unfortunate. Hopefully things can change soon.
Want to take a quick intermission? I gotta go.
Yeah, definitely.
Hell yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hell yeah.
A little bit nervous. I never done one of these before.
Yeah, definitely.
So
let me try and pop off with some questions. You said you're 47. Are you getting close to retirement? Because it sounds like you're like...
No.
No?
Not in this country.
Really?
No,
sorry.
I mean, no, I can't. I probably will at the same time most other people do.
Yeah.
My dad retired late because he wanted to. That guy cannot stop working. He was so entrained as a young man to work, as are a lot of these illegal immigrants. In their country, back in the day, it was common for them to stop school at like the third grade. My parents were here with a third grade education. Yeah. And they managed to, provide for us. They helped us all out. I have 3 siblings. They helped us each buy our first house, our first home.
Nice.
They east side of Paso. They started off with one home in that housing tract and went on to another, and so on and so on. And they were able to contribute and provide for all of their kids, not just their kids, their grandkids. My mother, she's a diabetic, working at a convalescent home a few years back, and she'd been there for over a decade. Before that, she was a nanny. But her rotator cuff, is that what it's called? It kind of started acting up. And actually, one of her shoulders is lower than the other. My mom has disabilities. Never complains. Will take care of 9 grandchildren right now. And is more than happy to do it. She loves doing it. And, by the time they're picked up, they're already fed. Sometimes they're already bathed, and they're just ready to go home and put down to bed. We go through such a change when we're raised here, where it's like we're so privileged that sometimes we can't even help our own family members, I know plenty of people that are like, oh no, take my grandkids and you take one of the other grandparents. I can't be bothered. Mm-hmm. And it's like, those are your grandkids. That's your flesh and blood. That's the thing about Hispanic families, especially coming from Mexico, where the family unit is everything. You know what I mean? There's nothing you wouldn't do for your family, and they'll pitch in and they'll take care of each other. And it's like, what happened to us? I mean, I think we were like that at one time, but I'm just not sure. Here in America, do you know what I mean? Where it was like, family meant everything to you. And I mean, I know people who are like, I'm not going to name names, but I was married to someone that her siblings live on like opposite sides of the country, and they all live away from their parents. And it's like, I can't imagine that. I don't think I could ever. I did that before when I moved to Big Bear, and I was hating it the whole time. And
when you were away from your parents?
Yeah, where I was away from my family, not just my parents, my brother, my sister, even my brother-in-law. My brother-in-laws are part of our family as well. My brother-in-law is married to my youngest sister. Even his family is part. Like Father's Day, both the dads were there. All the dads were there because he has 3 brothers as well. So all the dads were there, and all these kids and parents from both sides of this family all together as like one whole unit.
Yeah, it sounds like you have a big family.
Yeah, and it's like, same thing. His parents are great people. We love them. His father and my father are hugged. Same thing with my mom and his mom. And the only thing joining them is this couple that got together. Do you understand? My sister and my brother-in-law. And it's like it's a beautiful thing to see, and it's and I don't understand why more people can't be like that. It's not that hard to be nice to each other, people. I know it's like, but it's hard to do when you look down upon others and you frown upon others and you can't put yourself in their shoes. When you can't put yourself in someone else's shoes and you can't understand why, it's like, are you not trying to understand? Are you so selfish you can't put yourself in that person's shoes for a couple of seconds to realize, hey, maybe I would behave way worse than that person if I came from that, or maybe I would, So it's hopefully people someday, but I don't want my kids growing up in a situation where they can't feel they can call on their family if they need their family.
Want to hear how big my family is, or like who I talk to? So,
Well, I remember you were telling me about your siblings. Yeah, tell me a little bit about that.
yes, yeah.
Okay.
Moved to SLO when I was 14. SLO County, Morro Bay.
So you're from SLO then? Yeah. 14. It's pretty.
That's
much
what I said. I mean, I feel like I like developed as a person here.
Yes.
You know, for sure.
And it was a great place to grow up.
Because open arms and stuff. But like I talked to my brother for the first time in like 2 years recently for Thanksgiving. And then I talked to my dad and my grandma, and that's it.
Yeah.
So it's like super small, which I'm completely fine with. Because honestly, like for example, for every time there's like a holiday, sometimes I don't want to do some massive family outing. I'd rather just chill at home and like chill and smoke. You know?
Yeah, I get. Is that because smoking hasn't always been legal? Is that why?
No.
Or was it because people frown on it?
No, not even that. And it's ironic because I actually like just recently quit smoking. I was just kind of using that as like an example. But for example, last Christmas I got like invited to go do things from like friends and stuff like that. And I just didn't feel like leaving the house.
Oh, I can relate to that.
You know what I mean? Like
I can relate to that.
Like, just because today is December 25th, I just don't feel like leaving the
Baby
fucking
Jesus'
house.
birthday?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that, yeah. You were talking about like how
You mean Feliz Navidad?
you were talking about like how like big your family is and like naming all these names and how all these people are around you, and I'm just like, dude, like I don't even like. I literally like you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is, I'm out here like living life though.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, that's okay. You know, to each their own, and maybe it's going to come to a point where sometimes you have to face your own mortality to appreciate certain things. If that makes any sense, it's like. Maybe you have to go, like there were some spots, I went through some rough spots there. And thank goodness my family was there for me. When everyone else abandoned me, when I felt, when I was in a dark place in my life.
Yeah.
My family, and I'm talking about like a joint effort. My siblings, my mother, my father, even some friends. They pulled me out of that dark spot. And if they hadn't have done that, I can't guarantee you I would be sitting here talking to you today or talking to you today as the same guy that's talking to you right now. Well, my mother did teach me empathy, and at the same time, there's sometimes people fall into situations they can't come back from. Sure, thank you. And so it's like, I never had that. Even in like my darkest day, my family was right there, and I'm so glad they were. And I wouldn't have been able to get through without them. I will tell you that. And maybe hopefully you never have to. I never wish that upon my worst enemy. I will tell you that. And hopefully you never have to go, or anyone hopefully they never have to go through anything like that, or maybe they have. But it's like, yes. Couldn't have done it without my family.
You seem like a family man.
Yeah, I think so. I like to have fun, and we're up at the lake, chicks in bikinis on the boat and stuff like that. We've done that, and I appreciate that too.
Yeah.
And obviously I but more than anything, family. I'm not a man of faith anymore. As a kid, at times it seemed like I was groomed to be a preacher, and maybe that's why I'm loud and I'm outspoken sometimes, and I could be on a subject like this for a while, but I was kind of groomed to preach, I guess, and now I just I don't have a faith. I do believe in being the best human being I could possibly be, and raising my children that way as well. I have some great kids. My mom often says I have better kids than I deserve, because I was a little shithead my whole life growing up. I gave my parents a hard time, and even then, they never wrote me off. They always tried to teach me better, and they always let me know we are here for you. Mm-hmm. No matter what happens, no matter what you do, we are always here for you, and we are not going anywhere. You know, even if you want us to sometimes. It was like, and so, yeah, it helped me. Growing up with ADD back in the early 80s, we didn't know that's what it was. Very few people, especially in a small town like Paso, we weren't up to par. This is before the internet. This is before the information highway. It was like, in order to find out what ADD was, you know, it took a while for it to come to you. It was like anything, a style. Let's say there was a certain style that broke out in LA. We wouldn't get it till next year, Paso Robles. You know, parachute pants back in my day, or whatever it was. It was like, it took a bit.
Yeah.
And same thing with any other information. If we're, you know, I don't know if my teachers knew what ADD was. I know I could not concentrate to save my life. And I would try to. I didn't want to be behind in school. And my dad, he taught me the best way he knew. And it was like, you're going to work hard. My dad was a foreman at a ranch. And he led all these migrant workers. You know, and then they would be pickers. And they would pick, it was in Templeton. And they would work hard, man. This is before a lot of labor laws were in effect. These guys would be working out in like 110-degree weather, you know, hunched over, picking flowers. It's a hard job, and I did a little bit of that. He was like, "Look, if you don't pay attention to school, hard labor is what's waiting for you. This is what's waiting for you." And it was like I didn't have to do it for very long. You know, everyone had mercy on me, but it did teach me a hard work ethic. When I went out in the middle of the ocean to drill for oil, it was like, well, a lot of guys are like, it's 50-mile-per-hour winds and it's raining sideways, and I'm cold and I'm miserable. I'm going home. Get me a helicopter. I'm getting out of here. I was like, I can't. I have a daughter on the way. You know, I don't have that option, and it's not her fault. That you know, this is what the situation is. So yeah, his work ethic taught me how to stick it out.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And don't throw in the towel so easily. And I actually, to be honest with you, I can't really remember a time when I have thrown in the towel. It was always like, you know, failure. In your mind, sometimes failure is not an option. You know. It is. You know, a lot of people, especially nowadays, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to bash on millennials, but a lot of times it's like, oh, it's too hard. Oh, I can never do that, whether it be surfing, mountain climbing, whatever it is. You actually can. You could do whatever you want to do. You know, but nothing worth having comes easy. You know, if you want to be a badass boarder, if you want to be it's gonna be hard. Mm-hmm. You know, if it was easy, anyone would fucking do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Anyone would accomplish that shit. And that's what separates, you know what I mean? I'm not gonna say the boys from the men, because there's a lot of women out there that they're badass, you know, any profession you name. But it's one of those things. Don't expect it to have your head out and you know what I mean? It's like you want everything on, not you specifically, but it's like, I remember, I can't find something in the house, and I'm like, Mom, where's my, and she'd be like, let's see, I just cooked for you, I did your laundry, I cleaned the house, I worked my job, and I'm also your butler, and I'm supposed to give you whatever on a silver platter. You can't take the time to look for it yourself? Yeah. So it's like, make an effort, kid. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Do yourself that favor.
How did you get to Lake Nacimiento? Like, when did you move there?
I moved there in
And why did you move there?
2017.
Oh, so recently.
Yeah, I have been up. I've been up there numerous times before. Growing up in Paso, Frank would actually do the Wildflower Festival in San Antonio
Right across.
for many years. Yes, he worked with the medic booth and stuff, and so for decades, I would say, right, since our late teens.
90s.
Yeah, well, yeah, right. We were, late teens. That's the 90s, and early 90s. And so I had gone numerous times before while I was married, working my butt off the first time around. I never had time to go, so everyone's going back there and having fun, having a blast. My younger brother, actually, he doesn't go anymore. I can't even get him to visit me. But I remember back in the early 2000s, you couldn't get that guy out of there. He'd be porting there all the time, camping out, so forth and so on. So it's like... a little bit hurt. He doesn't come up and even visit me. Hopefully someday soon. Maybe you'll get to meet him when you're up there. And I always said I would go back. My friend, good friend James Esparza took me up there, who I worked offshore with. He took me up to Oak Shores, where we live now, in 98. And he was like, I got there. I had an awesome time. It's what I needed. Sometimes it's just like, this is what I need, to unwind. And, you're out there sometimes. There's times when the job was stressful and you're wound up tight as hell. And, I went out there and I said, I will live here someday. And now I do.
That's dope. That's cool. That's cool. And your house is pretty sick.
You like that?
Times I've been there.
Yeah.
I haven't been there, I think, during the daytime, but you were saying that, you walk down and you have a way to launch the boat.
Yes.
From,
There's a boat dock down there, too, and everything.
When there's water.
Don't get me wrong. My girlfriend Jennifer helps make it what it is a lot. Frank also lives with us. He helps out a lot. And I was going to say bigly. He's been a good friend, and he was security there. I moved there. He came to visit me, and we would hang out, and get caught up because we actually went about 15 years without seeing each other. Well, I was pretty much the whole time I was gone, right? Or
when you were gone.
Yeah, we went a while. We didn't get to hardly see each other, and of course
I would see your siblings, but not you.
Is that what would happen? Hey, probably because I was constantly working, man. I had two ex-wives. That's a lot of mouths to feed.
Yeah, because I would always run into them, or mom and dad.
Yes.
And you're like, oh, this and that.
Yes.
And I'll be like, what about Juanito? He's like, whoa, we haven't seen him either. Okay.
Anytime there's a family event, Frank has to be there. Not by his choice, by my family's choice. It's like, where is he? Why is he not? Does he think he's too good for us? What's happening here? And so, it's been great getting reacquainted again. Not like we were ever not good friends. We've always been good friends. Sometimes it's very easy to kind of lose touch. That happens very easily, at least in my time. Maybe now it's Facebook it's not anymore, and I told you I've never had one before, so...
Yeah, it's not an excuse. I mean, media or no media. I mean, there's ways to still keep in touch. There's still mail. You can still write to people. It's still ways.
Oh, who does that anymore? I actually thought about doing that today. Now that you mention it,
you can do a simple phone call, and say hello.
This is the thing about that is I have a very good friend. I remember he went to an art school in Seattle. Good friend. You remember Carlos Chavez?
Yeah.
He probably has his own podcast now. And actually, he used to at late night up there. He had a show on a radio station called Chicanismo, and it was about Mexican American Latin culture. And he was he was kind of an expert on it. He'd gone to school to study it, and But yeah, I know when I call him, we're going to be on the phone for 2 hours or something. So then I hold off calling him, and now it's like I've held off for almost a year, so now it's going to be 3 hours trying to get caught up. And then you put it on the back burner, and for me, yeah, this is like a very good friend of mine, and we grew up together, and I always mean to do it, but I need to find the time, and I will. I promise I will soon. But if it's a good friend, definitely. You know what I mean? Sometimes you need to know when to write people off, unfortunately, and so good friends are very far and few between. You know you're good friends when after 45 years you're still good friends.
What's it like having 2 ex-wives?
It's been interesting. I don't wish it upon my worst enemy. You know what? I don't really regret it because it gave me the most amazing things of my life. My kids. And that couldn't have been possible without them.
Yeah.
So it wasn't always easy. Sometimes you're like, really? Are you out of your mind? Really? That's your logic here. You know what I mean? Logic. It's like, it's not that hard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm a man of science and logic. Logic isn't that hard to grasp. You know what I mean? It's kind of like just already there. If it makes sense, that's what it is. We don't have to, dude, I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. I'm sure you're what, 23, 25?
23.
Okay, jeez, do you remember 23? I think I had my first mortgage at that time already.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
You bought a house at 22, 23?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, something like that.
Damn.
Yeah, second house.
You just had money or?
No, working hard, man. My parents helped us all get our first house. So that was
like, I'm going to start working at 14. I'm going to fucking buy it.
I've been, if you want to talk about technically working, it's like I had a paper route at 9.
Damn.
But
okay.
Yeah,
My bad.
That's what people did back then, right? You too. It was like we were built.
The daily press.
Yeah, we were brought up, and in his area, in his neighborhood, he would be on his bike with this big old a poncho with the big old pockets and all these newspapers. When those were gone, you'd turn around and throw. I think I had 130 houses to deliver to. And after a while, I made short work of it, and it was 130 houses were done in 45 minutes.
Yeah, just
on my bike. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Some people, there was a senior citizen housing tract still there near us, and some people wanted it right in front of on their welcome mat. And so I would get out and do that, and yeah. And then after that, it was, like I said, the fields and... The boss had mercy on me, and I think if it was my dad, he would have had me working out there with the migrant workers the whole time, because it's like, this is going to teach you a lot. It's going to teach you tolerance. It's going to teach you to have thicker skin. It's going to teach you to be tough. And his boss was like, no, he's driving the harvester, So he put me up on the harvester, and it was 2 levers, and I could turn the whole thing sideways. I could drive it up, massive wheels, turn it sideways, and go down. I remember the boss, there were Oaxacans, a lot of the day laborers. And so they're little guys, and he'd have me speed up the machine, and they would get mad, and I'm 12, 13 years old, but we're both the same height. So it was you know what I mean? And but they were ready to whoop my butt, man. And so it's, again, it also helped me become a better employee when I went out in the workforce on my own, and it helped me, sometimes be tolerant of people, but you don't have to take shit from anyone. You really fucking don't. And if it's bullshit, it's bullshit. Don't let anyone feed it to you and tell you it's fucking caviar, or tell you it's fucking a filet mignon. Let them know, hey, don't insult my intelligence, okay? You're feeding me shit. And I'm finding this offensive because you think I'm a fucking idiot. It's like, no, it's You know, be truthful with me, I'll be truthful with you, and we're going to get along just fine. Really. That's logic. It's that fucking easy. And so, yeah, there's people that are like, whoa, you know, slave owners took care of their slaves. I'm like, you still owned a fucking human being. Or you can't. Don't try to justify it any fucking way. And I've heard this many times, by the way. Usually from people in the South. I'm not trying to discriminate, but in my life experience, it was like, yes, I'm like, at the end of the day, you were still owned by another, and that person could have been abusive to you. I'm sure some were, but still, you own a human being, and it was like, what you could do to them was awful. What we did do to them was awful. It was heinous. It was the first terrorist group in the United States. Do you know what the first terrorist group was in the United States?
Does that have to do with the KKK or something?
It was the KKK.
Okay.
That was the first because they terrorized people. Do you know what I mean? They would. Do you understand? I mean, they could. If you weren't complying, it's like they'd grab you and you know what I mean? You'd be hanging by a tree the next day. Mm. It was that. There's nothing you cannot stop a mob. You cannot stop. You can only try to divert the mob mentality. That's all you can do. We saw a mob happen January 6th of this year. You can't stop a mob, but you could divert the mentality. And you don't say things like, if you don't fight hard, you're not going to have a country anymore. And I will march up these steps with you, while he got in his motorcade and left. It was, this happened. This is not a lie. You know, he totally could have diffused that situation. He could have, he could have directed it in a much, they said he sat there and smiled because he liked the chaos going on because of him. And it's a demigod. Do you know what I mean? That's a false prophet right there. The man's very inaccurate, and when it comes to anything, and it actually really makes me sad that people would listen, that with so much faith and so much conviction and ready to execute. It's awful, really. Major step back to me, I feel. And where I live, it's like, you see those flags everywhere. So how do you think I felt? It was, but we, at the same time, I let people know, hey, don't, no, I don't agree. And that's your opinion. And if you want to get into details and if you want to get into fairy tales, then watch the Disney Channel, Fox News, whatever. Both are fairy tales. But if you want to go to facts, I have facts for you. You can't argue with science. Global warming is a thing. It's not science, dude. It's science. It's not a fairy tale. It's not a bearded man in the sky, and you're gonna say, Jesus, take the wheel. It's like it's science, dude. It's been proven. We know this is happening right now, even as we speak. I work for the oil industry. What do you think we've done? And even though off the coast of California we have natural seepage, and it's actually gotten worse since we stopped drilling. So it does exist. Natural. If you ever get a chance, do some research in San Ardo. I remember we used to ride dirt bikes to the riverbed there, and on the sides of the riverbed creates a valley and a cliff and everything after so much erosion after many years. The side of this cliff would have like oil, and I'm like, how did oil get up there? Why? Because you could tell when dirt has oil in it. It's a dark. You know what I mean? Like, how did that happen? It's like 90 degrees out here, so it's not water. That would have evaporated. No, man, there's natural seepage even in an area like that on land. Where did oil come from? It comes from the ground. Fossil fuels, mostly plants, to be honest with you. But yeah, and so it's so I wouldn't recommend. We definitely need to move past fossil fuels. The time is past. We get wise to that, to green energy. I definitely believe. I encourage my kids to start a career in green energy. I told you, even we get fuel from pot. It's such an oily substance. Do you know what I mean? And it's a cleaner burning fuel. So it's like we can do this. We have the capability. We have the technology, and hopefully, I think we will get wise to that. We're getting better and better at it every day. Fossil fuels, working in it myself, it's a thing of the past.
Last question for you. I remember you sent me something and you were talking about like the Paso school district, or like Paso Robles High School, instead of like allocating money to do something with like after school programs or like some sort of programs, they wanted to like build a new pool or something. Did I fuck it up?
No.
That was pretty much it?
No, that was pretty. Hopefully,
did you want to bring that up tonight?
Yes,
or?
I definitely do. Hopefully, Frank can elaborate on that a little bit. I know Georgia Brown. I didn't go there. I wanted my kids to go there, but it didn't work out. Whatever reason, I know they've helped a lot of the community in our town. Whether you're Hispanic, black, white, growing up, there'd be Caucasian kids whose parents would purposely send them there to learn Spanish as a child.
Even though they're not from that neighborhood.
They could be from I don't want to name names, but I know kids from Atascadero. That's 2 towns over. Paso, you got Templeton in between. You got Paso Robles, Templeton, and Atascadero. I know kids from Atascadero that went to Georgia Brown. Because when you're young, your mind is like a sponge, and you soak up all this knowledge. The best time to teach kids another language is when they're young. I have 4 kids, I'm telling you. I speak fluent Spanish. My Spanish is as fluent as my English.
Damn.
Yeah.
Nice.
And so it's like these parents would bring their kids in for good reason. It was like they want their children to do better and to progress. Do you understand what we're saying? Who doesn't want the best for your kids? I think you'll have kids someday and maybe you'll be able to relate. But it's like, and actually for any kid, to be honest with you, we should want all kids to be able to do better. We really should. It's one of those things where when you look the other way, I think Chris Rock said it in a stand-up that he did. He's like, I'm at the club on a Wednesday in the middle of the week, and there's this girl that I know has all these kids, and I'm like, what are you doing out here in the middle of the week, 3 o'clock in the morning, partying at the nightclub? Go home and raise those kids before they grow up and shoot me at the liquor store someday. Do you understand what I mean? It takes a town to raise a child. And the environment that they're raised in affects them a lot. It's like that's everything. So when you don't want children to do better and succeed, it really affects all of us in the future. We make smarter America, smarter human beings, more tolerant human beings, more. Do you understand what I'm saying? It comes with anything. I tell my kids to absolutely not be racist, to absolutely not be judgmental, and that carries on. Something like racism isn't something a child is born with. A child doesn't know anything about race. Racism is taught, and so we should want all children to do better. When this happens, and now they're trying to take money away from. I'm sorry, Frank. Can you elaborate? Are they trying to close down the school?
Yes. What's going on is Georgia Brown Elementary School. It's one of the elementary schools that's been there for years. Many years ago, that's why it has Georgia Brown, because it was also another individual that was a former teacher and got the name of the school. what is being said and what I'm hearing is that they want to close down the school because it's already old, it's got structure issues. It is old, you know, and what the teachers and the parents are saying, okay, why do you want to close the school and not fix it like you're fixing other schools throughout the town? You know, they're fixing 2 other elementaries, Bauer Spec, Glen Spec, Marie Bauer, those were closed down and fixed. So why not do the same with this school also? Why can't you fix it? And now you're saying that you don't have the money allocated for it. Well, you did have money for the other ones, but then also this problem was created because of the board, school board making these decisions. So they allowed this problem to continue and to be made. They're saying that now it has to be closed because the population of the school is too big. It was, when it was firstly made, it was like for 400 something kids numbers, and then it's good for that neighborhood. But when you also introduce a program, dual immersion program, where you're teaching these kids this great opportunity of being a bilingual individual, and it's great because when you have your mind use 2 different languages, you're making that brain work more, and you like you said, as not just as a child, but as an individual. Because I remember myself when I had times, hard times in school studying, I would sometimes just stop and translate it, and then I would get it. Because at first I read it and I didn't get it, I understand, but then I translated it myself, and then I did understand what it was. So this is a great program, but when they allowed this program to happen, the board made that decision to create this situation, you know. So instead of 400 children, now there's over 700 children there. So yeah, it's more than capacity. And now they're saying, well, you know, we can't do it because there's too many kids. The building's old. Okay, well, why don't we allocate other monies throughout the district?
Other funds, yes.
And fix it. Just like we've done other schools. Why not do the same? Why just, you know, move the kids, move the teachers to other places? It's going to create a sense of, you know,
not just unity.
Chaos and you know.
No, it's not about if you fix a school.
People and you move, you know, children. It causes a disruption in the learning process. You know. So yeah, that's what's going on. It's on the news. News Times did a great article on it.
I sent you the article. Was that the Tribune? I think it was.
And the News Times, but the News Times did a good coverage on it. So I recommend people to read up or also on it. You know, find out from your neighbors, talk to your neighbors. You know, call these head of school board members and let them know. You know. You guys, not them, not the ones that are there right now, but the school board did allow this to happen. So why not try to fix it instead of just closing it down? You know what I'm saying?
There is funds to repair other schools, okay, and those funds may be gone
Right.
because they repaired other schools. I will ask this though: when was that earthquake? Remember when the clock tower fell?
Yeah, when the governor was.
Yeah, but what year was that? Do you remember? I want to say it was like 2003, 2004. Paso Robles, a lot of Paso Robles was demolished. There's still old buildings there, but they were able to. We have bars that are like almost 200 years old, and we're able to retrofit bars in other old buildings and bring them up to code and bring them up to par. But something as important as our children's education and their well-being. And it's not just for Hispanic kids. This is for like everyone. You know, there's a sense of unity with these kids, and they come from different households. It's like some, like I said, are in ritzy areas. Some are from, you know, lower income neighborhoods. But these kids are all being like raised together, and I think that's a very positive thing. You know, for the most part, when kids, like I said, racism is taught. You know, it's not something a child is born with. When these kids maybe see less fortunate kids, or vice versa, you know, possibly they could grow up to be empathetic towards one another someday. You know, because, like I said, where you come from has everything to do with where you're going. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our history, where we came, our history has everything to do with our future. Are we going to repeat our future? Are we going to repeat our mistakes? Or are we going to try to make it better? Are we going to try to better it? You know, like I said, when people at one time said, enough with segregation, it was like President Kennedy sent in the National Guard to you know, or to make sure these kids were not bothered while they were going to a white school. You know, the color of your skin determined back then what school you could go to, what school you couldn't, and what education you would have. That is not right. You know, and hopefully, as everything, our past has everything to do with our future. Though what happened in the 60s, what happened 200 years ago, what happened across our country may not affect us directly. Someday it will come to our doorstep, and we didn't care when it happened to anyone else. So why should anyone care when it happens to us? If that makes any sense.
And you bring up a good point. I mean, what you're saying, the past affects the future. The past does also affect the present. Because, like I was saying, this is the board members right now, the school, you know, district in Paso Robles. Yes, they might have not done these decisions right now.
They didn't make the decisions.
The school board in the past did make those decisions and allow the situation to get, you know, to where it's at right now. And they you know, they're talking about allocating and having, they do have money to have this new Olympic swimming pool, you know. Okay, all right, so you're gonna work on that, fix a swimming pool, you know, Olympic sized swimming pool. It's like, well, how many top athletic people have we gotten out of here? I'm not saying it's not important, because all sports are good, and I believe in sports for everyone because it keeps them busy.
After school programs, like I said.
It keeps them active.
After school programs.
Exercise.
Kids that are more active are less likely to get into trouble.
You can hold off on certain things and, you know, wait on the pool. Why not focus on this school and use those funds and fix that school first, and then go back and do the pool? Something like that. Just a thought.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, you could be hurting a lot of kids to satisfy the need of few in general. Do you understand what I mean?
Definitely.
And it's not even satisfying it because it's not a need. It really is not a necessity. So yes, we have a pool.
They have a working pool.
Yeah.
They have a pool.
They have a pool. It's not the one they want. So we're going to let all these... And mind you, again, why is it? Of course, Hispanics are no longer the minority in California, but at the same time, why is it someone other than... Do you know what I mean? Why is it someone other? Always. It's like, they're not... Again, are we just proving that these kids are just not as important? Is it because they're Hispanic? Majority Hispanic? Is it because, you know, are we gonna start treating them like second-class citizens now, like they did, you know, 200 years ago, 150 years ago, whatever, even 60 years ago? You know, it happened. It wasn't that long ago where it was like, if you're black and I'm white and you're on a bus, I get on the bus, there's no seats, you have to give me your seat. and get off the bus. I don't care if you work just as hard as I did or harder. It's none of my concern. It was all about me, and you know what I mean? Or you can't drink from the same drinking fountain as me, or, you know, you can't eat at the same establishments I do or partake in anything. You're also a taxpayer. You're also a citizen of the United States. You know, you could have been someone that fought in one of our wars. Mm-hmm. Black people have fought in every war that the United States has ever had, yet has still been treated like they would come back from World War II, the First World War, Vietnam, and treated like second-class citizens. And it's like, did we not learn back then what we did wrong? You know, I hope we did. And I hope we're not doing that to these kids or anyone else, for that matter, even across the country. Right now, I have siblings that are like, concentrate on your community, concentrate. Because my kids, I have kids that go to school in Paso Robles. And so they're like, concentrate on what's happening here at hand. It's like, but the reason we didn't worry about what happened back there is the reason this is happening now. We weren't ready for it. We weren't prepared. We knew people were capable of this. So, you know, maybe we should listen. We should listen to what goes on in our whole entire country, to be honest with you. We all got to live here.
Been going for an hour and 45.
All right.
That's a good note to leave off on.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for coming on. You
definitely.
You're like, the thing is, like,
I'm
sometimes
like all over the
I have
place.
to like nudge people a little to like get them
Really?
to talk a little more about you. It's just like, I'm just
I talk too much. That's what you think.
No. This is a podcast, so there's no such thing as even too much talking.
Okay.
That's the thing. Like, there's no on a podcast. There's no such. If we're in church right now, sure, yeah, maybe you talk too much. But
yes.
like, no, we're on a fucking podcast right now.
Awesome.
And I appreciate you coming out.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Hey, anytime.
Yeah.
You let me know. You should probably get Frank's number.
How do you,
Hopefully.